We'll crack on. Right, I'll read out the statement. The Town Council record all public meetings held in the council chamber. Under new legislation, members of the public are able to record, film and broadcast from a designated area. Please be aware that the meeting may be recorded and might be filmed or broadcast. Okay, item number 1, apologies. Philip.
Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Haynes, and Councillor Liver is substituting for her. And we have apologies from Councillor Chichester Miles, Councillor Burrows and Councillor Brosnan.
Thank you. Item 2, declaration of interests. I'll start off by saying I've got a non-pecuniary interest in items on page 22 to 23. My husband is treasurer of Harpenden Cricket Club, and as Harpenden Cricket Club are mentioned on page 22, I thought I ought to declare that. Anybody else?
Sorry, Chair, before you move on too far, it would be useful if you resolve to accept the apologies.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
so
forgot that. So
for the councillors.
we accept the apologies. Resolve to accept them. Yes, accepted. So, any more declaration of interest other than the one I've stated? So, item 3. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. Councillor Brosnan has agreed to be the vice chair of this committee. Am I allowed to propose him as chair if somebody could second him? Thank you. Okay, agreed. Chairman's report. I have no report to give. Are there any urgent items that anyone is aware of?
Chair, there are no urgent items that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. Item 5, public questions in accordance with Standing Order 20.
Again, Chair, we've received no public questions.
Thank you. We'll move to the minutes of the last Community Services Committee meeting, which was held on the 15th of March. Obviously, newly elected councillors weren't in attendance, but Carl, Philip, and of course Councillor Heritage were in attendance. So, if we are in agreement, we'll accept the minutes of the last meeting on the 15th of March. Agreed? Agreed. Okay, thank you. Right, we'll move to item 8, the officers' report, starting with the forward planner and resolution tracker. Yes, sorry.
There's some minutes of other meetings.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Yes, sorry. Item 7, yes. So, the Remembrance Day Working Party meeting held on the 6th of March this year. Again, same applies. Are we prepared to accept that? The amendment to the date of the meeting? That's relevant to those meetings, because we've changed the date of the next meeting.
You can raise it now, or it doesn't necessarily.
Doesn't matter, leave it until it's completely confirmed with all the other people.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
And one other in there is the allotments working party of the 16th of March, just to receive the minutes.
Yeah, receive the minutes of the 16th of March allotments working party.
Chair, so I can say that they were okay.
Thank you. So we'll move to the officers' report, starting with the forward planner and resolution tracker. Any issues arising from that we've picked up on our pre-review? Anyone?
Chair, as you just highlighted there, this presents the forward tracker for 23-24 for the Community Services Committee, and the forward planner that was on the resolution tracker for 2022 and 23. And simply the committee are being asked to note and approve, subject to any comments, that forward planner, and to note the resolution tracker and approve the removal of those resolutions marked completed.
Agreed. Everybody? Approved? Okay, thank you. Terms of reference, 8.2, Community Services Committee terms of reference.
Yes, Chair, the terms of reference for the committee are brought to committee for review annually. This report presents what the current terms of reference are for the Community Services Committee, and the committee are being asked to note and review the terms of reference, proposing any amendments to council.
Any amendments noted by anybody that they would like to propose? Happy?
Yeah.
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 thing I would say is, four of the meeting is four, down to basics tonight, there's only four.
Yeah. Noted.
Your gang, but missing, we would.
Thank you. So approved, I think, 8.2 Community Services Committee terms of reference. We're happy with that.
Thank you, Chair, if everybody's.
Yeah. Favour. 8.3 budgetary control, provisional outturn. I've had a chance to have a look at that attached report.
So, Chair, just by way of a bit of explanation, finance manager has prepared this report. And this report presents last year's provisional outturn for this committee, not the full council, this committee. CPF carried out a similar review of the whole council's outturn last week, and you'll be seeing our year-end accounts at council next week. It's unlikely to occur, but the reason it's called the provisional outturn is because there may be changes post-audit. There will be no further changes made to the figures unless instructed by them. The way these reports are written is to try and tell the story from the original budget to the revised budget. The original budget is approved in January, and the revised is the original budget plus any reserves that have been released to fund specific projects. The detail of the released reserves is Appendix A on page 22 of this pack. It's then to compare the revised budget with the actual outturn and explain the reasons for those variances. The variances are shown in Appendix B on page 23, and major variances are explained in Table 1 on page 20. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into. Like, is there any more information that you'd like me to provide relating to this report?
Anybody? Read it, so I'm quite content. David, are there any issues you'd like to raise?
No, I'm quite happy.
Happy.
Committee is asked to note the report.
Yes. The committee notes the report. Okay. Right, moving on to item 8.4, tree planting plan for 2023 to 2025. That's been attached in this bundle. I hope everyone's had a chance to read it.
So, Chair, this report serves two purposes, really. One, it gives an update on the previous tree planting plan for 2021 to 23. And secondly, it presents details of the proposed plan for 2023 to 2025, which this committee are being asked to approve. Up in the Town Council, trees are a big thing. We own about 31,000 trees. There are many benefits of trees, but they also take an awful lot of management with health and safety surveys and remedial works being required. One factor of tree planting is that it creates a great tree watering requirement at times such as now when there's not much rain. So when we produce a tree planting plan, we have to bear in mind the resource requirements that it might produce as well. The 23-25 plan, you will have seen that there's 87 trees in there. They're not the little saplings that we've planted thousands of over the last couple of years. We've also planted some substantial trees over the last couple of years as well. But you will also see that there's between 250 to 500 native saplings would be planted as well. And as I said, I will answer any questions, but we are seeking approval of the plan for 23-25.
Okay, before we approve the plan, has anybody got any questions for Philip on this fabulous tree plan?
Can I just ask why, on what basis are you selecting sites rather than it's Battersea Springs?
The answer to that, I think, would be that in the last tree planting plan, Batford Springs, there were some significant trees planted, particularly around the area of where the playground is,
Yeah.
within Marquis Lane. So the way that this has been looked at, it's been produced by our two green spaces development officers, who are the experts on their green spaces. And they have judged that these are the most appropriate places for these trees to be planted.
You do a sort of rotations. Last one, it was those places that was it this year, this rotation it will be. Is it just?
In my time with the council, to being honest, there's only been these two tree planting plans that we have, so I can't talk to the town clerks would like to answer, I think, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so to answer Councillor Ivor's question there, so when we do the tree planting plan, both the original one and this one, we look at every site basically, and look at what's appropriate, what gaps we've got, what might fit with the other native species, what fits with the wider management plan and the use of the site. So when we first produced the plan, there was loads of kind of opportunities. And we did so much in the first plan that our opportunities to do things in the second plan have been more limited, which is why you see more of the semi-mature trees rather than the widespread sort of swathe of trees. However, in terms of Batford Springs, there is some planting in Batford Springs. So the Marquis Meadow planting, the 12 native trees, which is done the far end of Batford Springs, that's in the tree planting plan for next time. And that one is in particularly in direct sort of response to some criminal damage, actually. So I think we've included that in the report. Unfortunately, there was a section of hedgerow and trees removed not so long ago, deliberately, we believe. And so that tree planting there is to make sure that we close off any gap that some local people may wish to have created for their own benefit. But yeah, we essentially take every site and look at what's possible.
Okay, thank you. So everyone happy to approve the tree plan? Thank you. Moving on to 8.5, the circus tender.
Thank you, Chair. As you will have seen, this report presents a specification for a non-animal circus. Harpenden Town Council has allowed one circus per year, which contributes to the Town Council's commercial income. The last contract was to generate a fee of £30,000 over 3 years. The committee are being asked to consider the tender specification. Following the tender process, this committee would then be asked to approve the successful tenderer from that process, and that would take place in September. So, subject to comments that councillors may have, we're requesting that the tender specification is approved.
Any questions from any councillors on that?
The circus that churned up the common.
Yes, Chair. So there was we allowed a circus to come in December for Christmas. And the learning from that was that their very large heavy vehicles did considerable damage to the common. We do have in the contracts that we draw up that they are responsible for mending any damage that they actually do. On that particular occasion, they were very keen. They were actually contacting us, asking how much it is, because they like to protect their interests for the future. And from memory, it cost getting on for £6,000, but they paid everything for it to be harrowed and reseeded and whatever else had to be done.
Yeah.
But what we've now done is this tender specification has been adjusted from the last one so that it's not giving them the licence to come 12 months, so they can't come through the winter months. I think that you'll see in there that it's from the 1st of April to the end of September that they are allowed to come to give.
Aaron Knowles is going to.
Which would give greater protection to the common.
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to add a slight bit of context as to why we allowed it over Christmas. And that was because the previous tender ran over the period of COVID, and so there were some cancellations. So we were essentially in a tricky spot where we had a contract with them in order that they could come to Harpenden, but at the same time there were restrictions. And so they made the request to come at an unusual time. We took a punt on it. Fair to say we wouldn't do it again during that time, but that was the context to it because of the contract that we had, and we were in a tricky spot. Took a punt, didn't quite work, didn't cost us anything.
No. I mean, if they're prepared to make good.
Absolutely.
It's much of a.
Yeah, but I think it's obviously now there's a time restriction, a date restriction,
Absolutely.
which will work to our favour. Councillor Heritage, have you got any questions on the specification? No? Okay. So happy to approve the tender specification. Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Lideacre Park oak trees, 8.6.
Yes, thank you, Chair. You will see from this that an activity that is generally relatively simple for us to carry out based on the advice of experts became rather protracted in this case because there was community concerns about not wanting to lose their trees, which I think everybody would understand. And they contacted a tree specialist themselves who cast some doubt upon the accuracy of the data within the test that we had carried out. So as a result, we were obviously concerned that we might be acting on what this other tree specialist was saying could be erroneous data. So we paused the activity that was going to happen right at the start, which was felling the trees, to investigate further and make sure that it was the right decision that was being taken. So we had two further tree experts, including the person who had raised the issue of the erroneous data, carry out more tests on the trees. And really the outcome was that although they'd did tests at different heights, the ultimate outcome was very similar in terms of that there was decay present, and 2 of the 3 reports were still indicating that there was health and safety concerns and that remedial action was required to be taken. So the decision was made that the trees had to be felled, and we created a safety exclusion zone within the park to protect the public. But because time had moved on from when we were originally going to fell the trees, there was then wildlife concerns. There was concerns that bird nesting could have started and bat roosting could have started. So we've gone through processes working with ecologists or environmental scientists, and we've established that there aren't any bats occupying the roosts, and there weren't any nesting birds as of this week when an ecologist was present on Monday together with the tree surgeon. So the operation to fell the trees commenced on Monday, with the ecologist present on that day to supervise and check beforehand that we weren't going to interfere or injure any wildlife. And I'm pleased to say that there wasn't any found to be present, and the trees have now been taken right down. The position now is the site is still currently secure, but we are intending that by the weekend it will be open to the public again.
Thank you.
And the committee, subject to any questions, the committee are asked to note this update on the report.
Okay, any questions before we note the update?
Yeah, so, sorry, Chair. I was just going to say, having
Yeah.
said at the beginning, sometimes we show additional pictures. Actually, this is kind of hot off the press. It's
Brilliant.
worth showing you this.
Yes.
So this is the base of one of the trees that has come down. So that has been felled. So as you can see from this, once you get into the base here, you can see the significant decay around the roots area, which is consistent with what we found on the decay surveys.
Yeah.
So I thought it worthwhile just showing you that.
Yeah, and it's really good to have the evidence, you know, just because you never know when it's maybe raised again,
Yeah.
whatever reason. So,
I
sorry,
was going to say, did you send it to the tree things? That I came along the second time round.
We haven't taken the opportunity to do that. However, we might put pictures on our website.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Carl?
No, Chair,
about
thank
the-
you for-
about the
yeah.
park? No. Councillor Heritage, anything you'd like to ask Philip about any of the?
Are these pictures for available for the public to see? We know back in May, there was lots of various discussions and that regarding the trees. I do think we should provide the evidence, certainly for the residents of Lidcombe Park, that decision that had been taken there was necessary. It's been doubly checked now, and with that evidence, I don't think anybody can really argue. But is this evidence available either on the website for them to see or for general look at?
Yeah. So, Chair, the best way to answer that is actually twofold. One, we probably will put them on the images on our website to complete the sort of cycle on our page. But also the image I showed you is the stump, and we're not proposing to grind that out, I don't think.
No, Chair.
So you'll be able to
we're
see
intending-
that stump as it was in the image if you go to the park. What we have also done is we've left large sections of the tree in situ, and as I understand it, we're going to be working with local residents to see whether we may be able to. I think there's a keenness to potentially turn that into a bench. That's another sort of recognition down the line, but we'll work with the local residents on that should they wish. But just, Chair, just one other point I would make, if that's okay, and it kind of links to your earlier items about trees. So Phil mentioned we do have over 31,000 trees that are on our system, and there are many more trees that are not quite big enough to meet the threshold for the 31,000, but in the years to come will do. One of the issues that you have when we have a very proactive management, as we do, is that you find issues because you're looking for them. So there's an alternative, and many places actually have a much more reactive approach. In many ways, you know, what you don't know actually can't hurt you, kind of thing. So you will see in the weeks and months and years to come that we have lots of tree works that we carry out, but that's because we go looking for the issues. And there's relevant case law out there as well, Chair, that a quite recent case that says that you should be surveying your trees within 2 years times anyway, and we're within that. Recently in March, I believe, the committee approved a tweak to our tree management policy, which might be useful to send round afterwards, reflecting that 2-year survey. So we used to be a 3-year survey, but in light of the case law, we brought that down to 2 years.
How many hours does that take up as last time?
So what we do is that there are 2 tenders relating to our tree work. So one is to go and do the health and safety surveys. So the periodic health and safety surveys are done by a third party. So we go out to tender for that. They do the work. Then we get a list of work that needs doing. and then that comes back to committee to then tender for the second stage. We also do visual inspections as well, so we're very lucky to have lots of sort of tree experts that work for us as well. So we do lots of visual things, visual inspections as part of our day-to-day work. But the main surveys, health and safety surveys, are contracted out, so we get that independent third-party view. And in this case, sometimes we have to get a second opinion, or indeed a third opinion, which, yeah, it can be tricky because we find problems and we also then have the expense associated to that to do the right thing.
Yeah. Any other questions before we note the update?
Chair, it's not a question, but I think one other point that's valid is our two greens, for reassurance of councillors really, our two green spaces development officers, their main interests and passion, both privately and work, is for wildlife, nature, trees, plants, biodiversity, ecology. And they would not wish to take down any trees unless it was absolutely necessary to do so.
Yeah, I've really got that impression from the tours I've done with them both.
Yes.
I was most impressed.
Okay, if everyone's happy, we'll note that update
Thank you.
on the park. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 8.7, the request for memorial benches.
Yes, Chair, as you will have seen, this report requests committee to consider and approve requests for 3 benches and 2 trees. We have a memorials policy. These requests have been considered by town council officers, and their recommendation to this committee is to approve all the requests within the report.
Thank you. Any questions from councillors on that? Okay. Happy to approve, everybody? Okay, moving on to item 8.8, tree works tender for the year 23 to 24.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A tender process has been carried out to find a contractor to complete these tree works. You will have seen from the report that the way that the requirements for these tree works come about is under our duty of care. We have had an expert tree surveyor survey all of Harpenden Town Council's trees, and the works that were recommended as a result of those surveys are the works that went into this works tender. 3 contractors tendered for the works. All of the contractors are known to Harpenden Town Council. The lowest quote was received from the contractor highlighted within the report, and the committee are asked to approve High Elms as the contractor to complete these works.
Thank you, Philip. Do you want to add anything, Carl?
Chair, all I would add actually is just a bit of context to how we run our tenders, and to say that we don't just run tenders based on lowest price. So within the tender specification, we set out our assessment criteria. However, having said that, on some tenders, they are very price focused. And so what we do when we get a tender response such as this, where you would have noticed there is a huge difference between the lowest cost and the highest cost, we go into detail on our due diligence checks to try to understand whether there's any obvious reasons for that. So sometimes there is an obvious reason where we can spot that actually 2 contractors might not be tendering to the same spec exactly, or they may so they may not be meeting the spec. Sometimes they may be using different materials that might have a sort of a material difference in price. In this case, having gone through the assessment, there are no obvious reasons as to why the prices are so different, other than one is better value than another. So I just thought that might be useful context to how we run our tenders.
Thank you for that. So any questions, Councillor Heritage, on that, on tender? Happy to approve.
Thank you, Chair.
So item 9, exempt business. Resolve that further line. Read this out, or is there anything to add?
So Chair, I don't believe there is any exempt business evenings, so there's no need to add anything on that item. So it would just be a case of formally closing the meeting.
Okay. Formally close the meeting at item 1. So,
Yeah, lovely.